All right, so now we're going to start our word problems. Remember, we need 5 different colors, either pencils, crayons, or pens. And you need your math book, and I'm on page 294, or a piece of white copy paper if you do not have one, if you don't have your math book, so you can trace over, okay? Let's start with our first problem. So our first problem says this building consists of 2 rectangular prisms, a small space for offices, and an attached larger space for warehouse storage. How much space does the building take up? So I need to find out the volume for both of the buildings, right? And then add them together. So I'm going to go ahead and label my um, volumes. And I know this has been volume 1. And it doesn't matter. This could be volume 1 or this can be volume 1. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to call that one volume 1. And then I'm going to label the other one with the tan color that I've been using. I'm going to label that one volume 2. Okay. So what first step do you think we need to do? Okay, if you said label all your lengths, all your widths, and all your heights, you'd be correct. So go ahead and label all your lengths and then come back to me and then we will compare. And I'm going to use blue because I've been using blue for all my lengths. Okay. Okay, so as you can see, this little piece here is the length, this is the length, this is the length. This is parallel to that, it's opposite, that's the length, that's opposite to that, that's the length. So these are all my lengths. So now go ahead and do all your widths. Remember, widths are going in. So go ahead and label those. Not label them, I mean, color them in, trace them over. And I'm going to use red because what I've been using for my width. So go ahead and do that and then come back to me and compare. All right, so here are my widths. Remember, going in. So here's a width. This is a width, it's opposite of that. This is a width, it's opposite of that one, it's parallel. And then this is a width going in, that's a width, and that's a width going in. All right, and now go ahead and mark all your heights. I'm going to use green because that's the color that I've been using. So do your heights and then come back to me to compare. Okay, so I marked all my heights. Here's the height. Here's the height. These are parallel. This is parallel to that one. That's a height. And this is a height. That's a height. And that's a height. So now that I have all my measurements, now I can go ahead and find my volume of the 2 different rectangular prisms and add them up together. So go ahead and try that. I'm going to find my volume 1 and then I'm going to do my volume 2. Let's start with volume 1. So go ahead and do that. See if you can find your length, width, and height for volume 1, then come back to me. All right, so for volume 1, length is 50 right here. My length is 50. My width, 30. There's a width in red. And my height is 12. So if you also came up with those, you'd be correct. Now go ahead and solve for volume 1. Go ahead and multiply them together. It doesn't matter what you multiply together. And then come back and check your answer with mine. All right, so if you got 18,000 meters cubed, you'd be correct. So what I did 5 times 3 is 15. I ignored my zeros and I got my 15 and then I multiplied it by 12. So I did 15 times 12. And then at the end, I added back my zeros, okay? So 15 times 12, 2 times 5 is 10. Carry my 1, 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. I'm done with that, Put my 0 for my placeholder. 1 times 5 is 5. 1 times 1 is 1. Added it up, 0 plus 0 is 0, 5 plus 3 is 8, 1 plus 0 is 8. So I got 180, but remember I had my 2 zeros here that I ignored, so I need to add them back. So I did my 180 and then I added my 2 zeros, which gave me 18,000, okay? 18,000 meters cubed. So that's for my volume 1. Now we need to find volume 2. So go ahead and see if you can find the measurements for volume 2 and then come back to me and then we will go from there. Okay, so for volume 2, length of 15, here's my length of 15. Width is 10. Right here, it's telling me going in is 10. And it's 5. I kind of went over it with my green here, so you can see it, but there's a 5 right there. So my height right there is 5. So go ahead and solve that any way you want, and then come back to me. So, and then we will check. I think I'm going to do 10 times 5 first, which is 50, and then multiply that by 15. So go ahead and solve that and then come back to me. All right, so what I did is I did 15 times 5 because I'm ignoring, I know that 10 times 5 is 50, but I'm ignoring the 0 for the time being, and then I'll add it back in. 5 times 5 is 25, carry my 2. 5 times 1 is 5 plus 2 is 75. But then I have my 0 here that I ignored. I got to bring it back in, so I add a 0, and that gives me 750 for volume 2. So now all I got to do is add these two together. So I got to do 18,000 plus 750. I'm going to put my 750 right below it to line them up, and then add it up. And I should get 18,750, right? Because 0, 5, adding those up, 7, and then my 18,750 meters cubed. Okay, so that's the answer to that one. Let's try the next one. All right, so our next one says, Jana's notebook computer is open. When Jana's notebook computer is open, it has the following dimensions. Okay, so they're already giving us all the dimensions. I know they're here, they're labeled, but they're also already here. Height of the top is 7/10 of a centimeter. The bottom height is 1 5/10 of a centimeter. The width is 33, depth is 24. Okay. Here they're using a little bit different terminology. Height, still the same, right? Height, width, still the same. Depth is, they're using depth for the length or the deepness. So you can interchange the wording, but it's still length times width times height. And here, see what I've been telling you, the length here would be 33. So that would be their width, but it's still the same. Don't let that confuse you. So the only thing that's a little bit different here, right, is because they're not two different figures. So you're not going to find the volume of this one and then the volume of this one. So I can imagine, because it says what's the amount of space Jana's notebook takes up when it's closed. So I have to imagine that I'm closing it up, right? So this lid is coming down. So if this lid is coming down, right, is the height going to be the same? No, right? So the height, I will need to add up my heights of 1.5 and 2 point, not 2.2, I just gave you the answer. I have to add up the height of 1.5 and 7/10. So if I add up 1.5 and 7/10, and remember, addition, subtraction, line up the decimals, line up the decimals. So I'm lining them up, then I just simply add. 7 plus 5 is 12. Carry my 1, 1 plus 1 is 2, and then bring down my decimal. So my height now is 2.2, and I should have done that in green, right? Because all my heights have been that color. So I'm going to trace over it in green so I know that my height is 2.2. That's my height. Now the width, what they're calling the width, we call the length. Does that change if you close it? No, it doesn't change, right? So my length is still going to be, and I'm going to underline that in blue because that's what I'm doing for my length. So my length is not going to change. That's still going to be 33. Go back to my green. Oh, let me do my width here. Times my width. And what they're calling the width, see the one that's going in, they're calling depth. Now, is that going to change if it's closed? No, it's still going to be the same, right? So it's still going to be times 24. And then my height was 2.2. So I'm going to go back and to the green times height. So it's going to be times 2.2. So they're using the wording a little bit different, but don't let that throw you off. It's still the same, okay? So now you have to figure out what are you going to multiply together first to come up with your answer. So I'm going to multiply 33 times 24 first, and I'm going to multiply that by 2.2. So go ahead and do that. I'm going to put here volume equals. Go ahead and do that. I'm going to do the 33 times the 24, and then I'm going to multiply it by 2.2. So go ahead and solve it and then come back to me. Okay, if you got 1,742 and 4/10 centimeters cubed, you'd be correct. So 1,742 and 4/10 centimeters cubed. So if you didn't see what you did wrong, check my work. So I did 33 times 24. 4 times 3 is 12. Carry my 1. 3 times 4 is 12 plus 1 is 13. I'm done with that. Done with that. Put a 0 in my placeholder. 2 times 3 is 6. 2 times 3 is 6. Add it up. 0 plus 2 is 2. 6 plus 3 is 9. 6 plus 1 is 7. 792. For 33 times 24, then I got to multiply it by 2.2. So 792 times 2.2. Remember, you just ignore the decimal, multiply like normal, then we add it at the end. 2 times 2 is 4, 9 times 2 is 18, carry my 1, 7 times 2 is 14, plus my 1 was 15. I'm done with that, put a 0 in my placeholder. 2 times 2 is 4, 9 times 2 is 18, carry my 1, 7 times 2 is 14, plus 1 is 15, add it up all together. And then I got 4 plus 0 is 4. 8 plus 4 is 12. Carry my 1. 8 plus 5 plus 1 is 14. Carry my 1. 5, 6, 7. 1 plus 0 is 1. So I got 1,742 and 4/10 centimeters cubed. Okay. All right. Let's do our next one. All right, so let's look at the next problem. The size of a furnace depends on the volume of air in a building. A heating contractor must size a furnace for the 3-unit apartment building shown in the sketch at the right. What is the volume of the air in the building? Okay, so clearly here we don't have to color in the shapes. We can clearly see one building, second building, third building, right? We can clearly see the building. So this one we have 3 volumes, right? So we have volume 1. I'm going to go back to the same color. I'm going to label this one volume 1. And I'm going to label this one volume 2. Volume 2. And then I have the last one here, which I'm going to label volume 3. So this one we're finding 3 different volumes. I'm going to use this purple for volume 3. Okay, so the same like we've done before, let's find all our lengths, all our widths, and all our heights. So go ahead and find all your lengths and trace over them. I'm going to use my blue because that's what I've been using. So go ahead and pause the video and do that. And again, I don't have to look, trace this over and then do that, okay? Okay, so as you can see, I did all my lengths. So this is a length, that's a length, it's parallel, it's opposite, that's a length, 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 okay? So I got all my lengths. Now go ahead and find all of your widths, and I'm gonna do those in red. So pause the video and highlight all your widths, and then come back to me. Okay, so here are my widths going in. That's opposite, parallel to that, parallel to that one, parallel to that one, parallel, parallel. There are all my widths. Now I'm going to go ahead and label all my heights, and I'm going to do those in green. So go ahead and pause the video and go over your heights, okay? All right, so here are all my heights, and I apologize if my lines look a little bit off or askew. It's really hard to draw with my mouse. I was using my pen, but my pen stopped working on here. I don't know why, so now I have to only use my mouse, and it's a lot harder to draw with your mouse. So here's a height, 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 here's a height. Okay, so we got them all. So go ahead and see, let's start with first the taller building here. Let's call this our volume 1. See if you can find the volume, the length, the width, and the height for this one, then come back to me and compare your answer, okay? Okay, if you got 15,000 feet cubed or cubic feet, you'd be correct. So what I did is I did 25 times 6. Why 6? Because 2 times 3 is 6. I ignored my zeros and then I added them back in at the end. So I did 25 times 6. 6 times 5 is 30, carry my 3. 2 times 6 is 12, plus 3 is 15. That gives me the 15. 150, but then I had my 2 zeros. So then I added 2 more zeros, and that gave me the 15,000. Okay, 15,000 feet cubed. Okay. Oh, did I mention 25 here? My length, width 20, height 30. Forgot. I'm not sure if I mentioned that or not. I'm pausing the video as I go to save some time, but can't remember if I mentioned that. So sorry, I apologize if I skipped over that part. All right, so now we're going to go move on to volume 2. So the same thing. If you can find your length, your width, and your height for volume 2, and then multiply those together and see what you get, and then come back to me. Okay, so length still right here. Length is right here, clearly marked 25. So I got my length of 25. My width right here marked. So if this is 20, that's 20. So my width is still 20. And my height, did you figure out the height? So if the tall building here is 30, right? And this part here is 20, but I need to know this part, right? So when I do it, I could do 30, take away 20 up to this point here to get my 10. I got my 10. So then what I did is I multiplied the length and the width. I did 25 times 2. I ignored the 0 for right now, and I did 25 times 2. And if you don't know that it's 50, you could just do 2 times 5 is 10, carry my 1. 2 times 2 is 4, plus 1 is 50. Then I got to add in back my 0. So that gave me 500. So if I add a 0 to my 50, right, that gives me 500. And then I got to multiply that by 10. And I know by powers of 10 that I can ignore the 0. So it'd be 500 times 1, which is what? 500 plus the 0 that I ignored. I put it back in, and that gives me 5,000. So volume 2 is equal to 5,000 feet cubed, or cubic feet. Okay. And so I found my volume 2. So I went ahead and I added it up here on my line. So far I got volume 1 was 15,000 cubic feet, and volume 2 is 5,000 cubic feet. So now we need to do volume 3. Okay, so go ahead and try volume 3 and then come back to me and see what you get. Okay, if you got 10,000 cubic feet, you'd be correct. So length, let's see, our length is right here, which is right here, which is right here, which is still 25. So my length is 25. My width hasn't changed either. It's still here, 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 and it's 20. And my height clearly right here is 20. Okay. Sorry, I don't know why I drew there. My mouse accidentally clicked down. Sorry about that. So then I did 25 times 2 again, which is 50 from before, and I added my other 0 that I ignored because it's times 20, not times 2. So I added back my 0, and that gave me 500 times 20. So then I ignored my zeros for right now, and I know 5 times 2 is 10. And then I had 1, 2, 3 zeros that I ignored. So I got a 1, 2, 3, add my 3 zeros that I ignored, and that gives me 10,000. So then if I add 15,000 plus 5,000 plus 10,000, that's going to give me my total. So go ahead and do that. Pause the video and do that, and then come back to me and see what you get. All right, so if you got 30,000 cubic feet or feet cubed, you'd be correct. So I did my 15,000, I brought down my 5,000, then I brought down my 10,000, and I added it all up, remembering to line up my place values so my numbers are in the right place. 0 plus 0 plus 0 is 0, 0 plus 0 plus 0 is 0, 0 plus 0 plus 0 is 0, 5 plus 5 is 10, carry my 1, 1, 2, 3, 30,000 cubic feet is how much is the volume of our 3-apartment building. All right, let's move on to our last one. We're almost there. Hang in there with me. Okay, so let's look at this problem. An in-ground swimming pool often has steps. They are made from poured concrete. In the sketch of steps at the right, the steps are identical, each measuring 8 inches from side to side. So 8 inches from side to side, and 12 inches from the front to the back, 12 inches from here to here, and 8 inches tall. Okay, so how do you think we are to do this problem? What do you think we should do? How should we decompose this one? So stop the video, think about it, and then come back to me, and then we will see. There's different ways to decompose it, right? So let's think about this. So stop the video and then come back to me. Okay, so if you said to decompose the shape right here, going up and down, that's one way to do it, and that's the way I did it, okay? So again, we have 3 different volumes, right? So so we have this shape here, we have this shape here, and then we have the last rectangular shape in the back. So I'm gonna label my rectangular prisms, my volumes. So I'm gonna start off with my light blue again. I'm gonna label that one volume 1. So very first I'm labeling it volume 1. My next one, I'm going to go back with my tan, and I'm going to label that one volume 2. So this shape right here is volume 2. Okay, then we have our last shape in the back, and we're going to label that one volume 3. And since I did purple on my last example, I'm going to also do purple for this one, and this one is volume 3. If it helps you, you can color one of them, so it can help you see the shapes. I clearly see the 3 different shapes, but if it helps you, you can color one of them. Okay, so go ahead and find all of your lengths, and in this one, because it's tilted sideways, it's harder to see, but because I have to kind of put it that way so you can see all the elements. So find the length where you think the length is and do that one, and then come back to me. Okay, so here's the length, 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 here's the length. And it tells me it's 18. So no matter which volume 1, volume 2, or volume 3, my lengths are all going to stay the same, 18, right? Now I got to find my width. So go ahead and see if you can find your widths. All right, so I found my width. It's going in right here. So my width right here, right here, right here, right here, right here, right here. And it tells me that it's 12. So all of these are 12. So my lengths are all going to be 18 for every single volume. My volume 1, my volume 2, my volume 3. My widths are all going to be 12. That's 12, that's 12, that's 12. So all my widths are going to be the same. What's going to be different? That's right. If you said heights, you are correct. That's going to be the difference. So go ahead and see if you can find all of your heights. Stop the video and find your heights. All right, so height. Here's my height, was parallel to that. Here's going to be a height. Here's a height. Here's a height, and here's a height. So this little piece is 8, right? So that little piece is 8. So what's changing? My height, right? So if this little piece is 8, I'm adding another one of those little pieces. So an 8 and an 8 makes a what? A 16. So the height of this line is 16. Oops, and I got the wrong color. So give me a second. Let me change my color. Okay, so this one's going to have a height of 16, right? Because right to that point is 8, and then it's another 8. So 8 and 8 is 16. Oh, and I forgot this height, didn't I? Way back here. Let's draw that one in. Okay, now the back one, right? Up to this point, it's 8. And then I add another little section here. Forgot that height there too, didn't I? Okay, and that little height is 8, so that gave me 16. So up to this point, I have 16. And what am I adding? Another 8, right? So 16 plus 8 is what? You said 24 is right. So this one would have a height of 24. So do you notice something about this? Do you notice anything so far that we've done? Okay, if you're going to say, if you said the lengths are always going to be 18 on every one of these, you are right. It's 18 there. And this one, it's also 18 here. And it's also 18 here. So when I do this, the 18, my length is going to stay the same. What else is staying the same? If you said the width, you are right. They're all 12 inches wide. So these two numbers here are staying the same on all three of my shapes. So the easiest thing to do is to find out what 18 times 12 is, and then that's going to be common to all of these, and then all you have to do is multiply it by the different heights. So go ahead and do what 18 times 12 is, and then come back to me. All right. So if you got 216, you'd be correct. Over here, 8 times 2 is 16, carry my 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus 1 is 3. Done with that, put my 0. 1 times 8 is 8, 1 times 1 is 1, added it up. 6 plus 0 is 6, 8 plus 3 is 11, carry my 1, 1 plus 1 is 2, I got 216. So 18 times 12 is 216. So now that we've done it once, we won't have to do it again for the next ones because we've already did that math because it's going to stay the same. The only thing that's going to change is my height, right? So now I have 216 times 8 to find my volume 1. So go ahead and pause the video and do that, and then come back to me to check your answer. Okay, if you got 1,728 cubic inches, you'd be correct. So I did 216 times 8. 6 times 8 is 48, carry my 4. 8 times 1 is 8, plus 4 is 12, carry my 1. 8 times 2 is 16, plus 1 is 17. So volume 1 is equal to 1,728 inches cubed. So now I got to find volume 2. So remember, volume 2 is going to be very similar. My length is still 18, and my width is still 12, 18 and 12. So these two numbers are not going to change. And I already did all the multiplication for that over here on the side. when I did my other problem and I got 216. So what's going to change? My height, right? So remember my height now over here, it's going to be 16 because see, I had it here was 8 up to this point plus another 8 is 16. So what's going to change? My height to 16. So this is the only number that is going to change. So I'm going to erase that and I'm going to change my height to 16. Okay. That's the only thing that is changing. Everything else stays the same. Oh, and now what's changing, right? Now it's not volume 1 that I'm finding. Now I'm finding volume 2. So let me do that really quick. Okay, so I went ahead and I changed that. So I labeled this now volume 2. My length is still 18, my width is still 12. And remember, I already did 18 times 12, which was 216. Now my height is 16. So what's changing, right? My height. So my height used to be 8, now it's 16, so it's being doubled, right? So in essence, I can take my 1,728 that I already found when I multiplied it by 8, and I can multiply that by 2 to get my answer. That's one way to do it. Or if that seems too confusing to you, you could do 216 times 16, because that would probably make more sense to the majority of you than the multiplying it by 2. So go ahead and pause the video and then do 216 times 16 and see what you get. All right, if you got 3,456 cubic inches, you'd be correct. So I did 216 over here times 16. 6 times 6 is 36, carry my 3. 6 times 1 is 6, plus 3 is 9. 6 times 2 is 12. Then I was done with that, Put a 0 in my placeholder. 1 times 6 is 6. 1 times 1 is 1. 2 times 1 is 2. Added it up. 6 plus 0 is 6. 9 plus 6 is 15. Carry my 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 3,456. Okay, so now I got to do my volume 3. And again, so for my volume 3, let me erase some of this work and then I'll come back to you. Give me 1 second. All right, so now we're on our volume number 3. Now we're on volume number 3. Give me 1 second, boys and girls, because Miss Duchette is calling me. Give me a second. Let me pause the video and I'll come back. All right, sorry about that. So let's see, where were we? So volume 3, right? So anyways, so now I need to do the only thing, remember, my width is still the same, my length is the same, my width is the same, so it's still 18 times 12. That hasn't changed, and I already did it from the beginning, which was 216. What's changed? My height, right? Now it's 24. So now I got to do 216 times 24. Or those of you who figured it out, 200. My first answer that I got, 1,728, I could do that and multiply it by 3. Why by 3? Because 8 times 3 is 24. It's increasing 3 times. This was my standard, then it increased 2 times, then it increased 3 times. So it's increasing by 3. Okay, can you... All right, sorry, boys and girls, I had another interruption. My daughter just came in here while I was recording, so now I completely forgot where I was at or where I left off. I apologize. I think what I was saying is that you can also figure it out that the 1,728, you can multiply that by 3, right? Because that's what's changed. 8 times 3 is 24. But if you don't see that and you're having a hard time seeing that, that's okay. All you got to do is multiply 216 times 24. And I'm going to do that to show you what it is, because I think some of you would probably have a hard time getting that I can do 1,728 times 3. And that's okay. a harder level thing to be able to see it, and it's okay if you don't see it. So let's just do 216 times 24. So go ahead and pause the video and do that, then come back to me. All right, if you got 5,184 inches cubed, you'd be correct. Did my work here, 216 times 24. 6 times 4 is 24, carry my 2. 4 times 1 is 4 plus 2 is 6. 4 times 2 is 8. Done with that, done with that. Put a 0 in my placeholder. 6 times 2 is 12, carry my 1. 2 times 1 is 2, plus the 1 is 3. 2 times 2 is 4. Added it up. 4 plus 0 is 4. 6 plus 2 is 8. 8 plus 3 is 11. Carry my 1. 4 plus 1 is 5. 5,184 inches cubed. So now I got my volume 1, volume 2, volume 3. What do we got to do? Yep, add it all up. So go ahead and pause the video, add it all up, and then come back to me and see what you got to compare your answer. All right, so I added it all up and I got 10,368 inches cubed. Let me close up that 0. So I added it all up over here. I did 8 plus 6 plus 4 is 18, carried my 1. I got 8, 10, 15, 16. Put my 6 down, carry my 1, 7, 8, 12, 13. Put my 3 down, carry my 1. 5, 8, 9, 10. 10,368 inches cubed is how much concrete is going to be needed to complete the steps to the swimming pool. All right, so that was our last word problem. If you're still having problems, boys and girls, on that same document where you found this, there is a link to a worksheet and a video where I'm guiding you doing one of the problems on the worksheet. And then if you're still having problems with that, do a few more problems on that worksheet. You can email me, tell me which problem you did, and then I can email you back and let you know if you got the right answer or not. All right. These take a lot of perseverance and time, so don't give up. Keep trying, and you will get there. And if you find it pretty easy, nice, good job. Just to let you know, this usually takes about 2 to 3 weeks in the classroom of doing this, of practicing it over and over and over again in order for kids to really grasp it and understanding it. So if you're still struggling a little bit, it's very normal. Don't feel bad. It takes quite a while to master this concept, okay? All right, have a great day.